We're set for a progress hearing today requested by the department, and the court will recognize that the department is present, represented today by Ms. Marilyn Bradley and joined by representatives from Belong, Ms. Catherine Schoaf and Ms. Christy Knopp. Ms. Tess House is here as Faith's attorney ad litem. Virginia, can you send the link to Ms. Cecilia Hellrung to make sure she has it to join as Faith's guardian ad litem? It looks like we have representatives from the placement, perhaps, as well as from Belong, SJRC. So let me ask Ms. Bradley, it's your request for a hearing today. I have what little you included in your motion requesting the hearing. And so what specifically are you asking of the court today?
Your Honor, I think there are very serious concerns about whether this placement will break down due to the behavior of Faith. And that would be very problematic because, of course, she has the child Lorenzo in care with her. And there's been a lot of fear for the safety of the child, the infant. And the consensus was it's time to make the court aware of what is going on. And if there is any kind of order the court wishes to make regarding this situation, then we would simply apprise the court of what is going on. But Faith's behavior has been difficult in the past, but now there's a child, and some of the issues such as co-sleeping, screaming at staff, using a chair in an aggressive way towards the staff, causing the child, whether or not she's actually caring for the child or neglecting the child so that staff has to take up the slack. All of these are issues that are extremely concerning both to the placement and to the department. And so the progress report was drafted to try to apprise the court and the parties of what is going on. And if the court wishes to make any orders or has any suggestions, we are very willing to listen. But the problem is, if things progress, then Faith is very likely looking at removal of this child from her care, and that is the concern.
All right. I'm always happy to get updates about how Faith's doing, and obviously this court is interested in ensuring, to the extent that we're able to, her ongoing stability and security in the placement. And now we have an infant who is not within this court's jurisdiction to make decisions about. And so I want to, just appraise you that I'm happy to get an update, but I'm also troubled with this notion that you can just provide me updates and then ask for me to make orders that I might think appropriate. I mean, the department's the managing conservator, and Belong is the agent of the department. And so I would hope you would come to this hearing with specific requests of this court regarding what you want to see and what you believe to be in Faith's best interest, and by extension, the child. And because this is just very murky and difficult water for this court to wade into, if you're talking about the health and safety of a child, which I'm not even sure, is there an ongoing investigation? Is there a pending CPS investigation at this time?
There is, Your Honor, which is why we asked Ms. Tanya Spano to be here in case there was a need.
Your Honor, if I might chime in, I had similar concerns when I met with the placement a couple of weeks ago. I asked them to provide specifics. I believe the concerns have been very adequately, if not more so, addressed by Ms. Schoaf. I had the same issue, like, what do you want to happen here? I was sent an email that basically the biggest issue and the concern with Faith running away really comes from her cell phone. There are a lot of concerns with the cell phone. I do know the day before I went to the CASA conference, we had a very late staffing because she was packing, saying she was going to run away. She produced the name of some random boy that she said was the father, but refused to do DNA. And there were reports that a car did arrive. I believe it was an Uber, and they were able to let it go away. I think from a safety perspective, I agree with the department and the placement that if she leaves SJRC with the child and, runs off with, we don't even know who, because she will not identify any of the people that she's in contact with, that would be, I think, an immediate danger to the child. She has refused to advise anyone who the father is, but I think we pieced together that the father is not another child. I think it is an adult. My concern is that her confidential diagnosis and pregnancy may have happened from the same person. Well, we don't know that because we don't know who he is. So I know that the Mr. James Castro, who is there at the conference table, has asked that that she not have her cell phone. They also want to have this court order parenting classes for this child. I believe that's absolutely a safety issue because she is co-sleeping. She doesn't, when I have visited with her, I'm not necessarily sure she even knows how to hold the child appropriately. There's just, my concern is, I think there's a bond, but not one that I would think of a mother to a child. She really kind of looks at the child more as a, I hate to say the word property, but basically more as a possession than a living, breathing, separate human being. And I think that's concerning. She has refused to take the parenting classes that SJRC has provided for her. And I have offered, and I think so has her advocate, to provide her a parenting program that she might be more comfortable with. But I think the problem that we're having, at least in every meeting I have had over the last several months since the child was born, is that she doesn't want the help. She doesn't want to take a parenting class. She doesn't think she needs a parenting class and doesn't really understand why, the department is insisting. And bottom line, I think while she was pregnant, there was a lot of leeway she was getting, where she would throw a tantrum and then get what she wanted. And I think that's continuing. So it becomes more dangerous now that this child is not in her, that when she has these tantrums, she'll either give the child up or she'll get angry and animated and have the child with her, which can be very, concerning. I have not seen any of these incidents, but that's what I'm being told. And they are concerned. She is asking to get a job. And again, they're concerned with that because of her, tendency to want to run away. And they're afraid that if she goes out of the protective environment, that essentially she will elope, which I don't necessarily think is unreasonable concern. Finally, they want an order that she attend and participate in school on a daily basis. I think that's a harder sell because I don't think this child has ever really done well in school. I know that I've seen a flurry of emails over the last week about giving her more responsibility, letting her make appointments for Lorenzo, having her actually participate in her service plan meetings and with the school. My sense of Faith, as best as I've been able to get to know her, she is very, very traumatized, and she's really angry. All of these adults who keep having these meetings and keep talking to each other, and no one's really incorporating her into the plan. But unfortunately, when they have tried to get her involved, she's refused. So I'm just not necessarily sure we have an absolute remedy specific, but the 4 recommendations that they're asking the court to take on are the 4 that I've laid out. One is that she not be allowed to have her cell phone as long as she's there, that she be mandated to take the parenting classes, and that she not be allowed to do the job. I think honestly the school is kind of a given, but I don't think this court's going to have any more power to force her to go to school than anybody who's tried to get her to go to school. So if that assists, that's about where my position is at this point.
All right, Ms. House, I think I saw your hand raised that you wanted to address the court as well.
Yes, Judge, thank you. So I've been on this case probably out of Maryland and Cecilia the longest. I think it's important to lead this case with compassion because this child, as you recall, she's not in care because of her behavior alone. She's in care because of her parent, and she's the only child that did not return home. And therefore, because she is a child in CPS, her child involuntarily, right, is in care. And I say that loosely. I have talked to Faith. I have also talked to the investigator in this case. And Faith is in therapy. She goes to therapy. It is with a male individual. She has requested a female individual. And she has shared with me, because of her circumstance and the things that she has been through, there are conversations that come up with this male therapist that cause her to be uncomfortable and shut down. This request did go in. Her case manager knows Faith O, who is seen in James Castro's box, is aware. And it's my understanding Faith O has told me that that request has been made. I did ask whether or not there is a female therapist available immediately to provide her services. And that answer was no, but that request has been made. And perhaps that this is something really, I think we should be in a staffing, not in this court proceeding. I think that all parties need to come together to discuss a lot of issues before orders are made. So that's one. Number 2, Judge, as far as school participation, I asked Faith, what was her frustration about school? And I liken it to any child that is behind in school. She feels embarrassed. She wants to be able to do school in a way where, first, her desire was to get a GED. We discussed this extensively. To the point where she has now decided to go back on the track of getting a high school diploma, but she does request one-on-one help. She wants to understand how can she learn without feeling embarrassed. She also wants credit recovery. And these are recent desires. Judge, we talked as late as Monday, and I've been talking to Faith extensively about her needs. She wants credit recovery so that she can graduate on time, but she now understands the value of getting that high school diploma. And I have spoken to both the caseworker, Katie, who has reached out, and she's been diligent on trying to reach out to the school so that we can set up a meeting and come up with a plan that includes Faith's participation in achieving this. As it relates to therapy, along with the therapy she's in, she's also in equestrian therapy that just started. She goes to horse therapy. That's weekly. It started last week, and she's doing well. I will say Faith's demeanor that I see her today is much more calm, Judge, and much more mature that I have seen her in the past. In fact, it brought me to tears, the type of maturity that she was showing when she expressed. She was very clear about placement. She said, it's not a bad placement. First off, to hear her say that, I was stunned, right? Because based on what you kind of see in writing, you think that she is anti this placement. She said it's not a bad placement, but she identified targeted things that she needs to work on, but that also placement needs to work on. So this placement is not a permanent placement. She will be transitioning out. They won't be available to keep her and her child in the near future. And so she feels like they've given up. That's her perspective. That may not be the truth. That's her truth. And so again, this is something that I've requested that we have a meeting with SJRC about. Also, back to the school issue. Faith in CWAP had not been enrolled in school. So even Miss Gash had investigated, even in one of her placements, where allegedly Faith was refusing to go to school. After investigation, Frankie Gash called me and said she had not even been enrolled. So it wouldn't have even been possible for this child to go to school. So we're talking about an extensive amount of time that this child has not been enrolled in school and is getting reacclimated to even learning. I don't even know what grade level she's on. The last time I know she's substantially participated in education would have been CWAP in Uvalde. And that's the last time I can point to that. As far as her child, she loves Lorenzo. If you hear her speaking about her child, she loves her baby. What we are dealing with, though, is it is a teenager who has had a child for the first time. And she admittedly says, I'm tired. I get tired as a mom, which I am sure is likened to an adult mother. She has no reprieve. There's no one there to provide any type of respite care for her. So this is what is said and represented. Sometimes there's staff that is there that says, I will hold the child for you. Sometimes there are staff that are available to her, and she says they use it against me, that I use their services. And so I said, would it help? And Ms. Bano was there along with Faith O, the case manager, if we all had a meeting to talk about what does respite care look like, right? When Faith needs to go to sleep, what are the expectations of watching the child? Faith even said, when I need a breather and I feel myself getting upset, there's a monitor on the child that she is monitoring, which I didn't know. These facts weren't available to me until we actually sat down to have a conversation between Ms. Bano, myself, Faith, and Faith O, which I believe if everyone in this room right here, all the stakeholders outside of you, Judge, were to actually sit down, a lot of the concerns that they are bringing to you today would be clarified, because there have just been gross misrepresentations of therapy, of care for her child, and of little issues that we can sort out in a staffing, in some type of family team meeting. So that's where I stand, Judge. But I know that she's making progress, and she most definitely is in therapy. Thank you.
With all due respect to Ms. House, I've attended probably more than 24 staffings. They have them weekly, and I've been invited. I don't know if Ms. House is just not invited or is not attending. I don't know. But we've had, I lost count of how many times we're meeting on this case. I 100% agree with Ms. House that I do not think that the current therapist that's working with Faith is appropriate, and I have let the staff know this. I do believe she needs to be with a trauma therapist and a female, but in the past, she has refused to go into therapy. I know that both Katie and I found a trauma therapist and we got her in, she wouldn't go. I 100% agree that if there is respite for this child and the staff could, assist with Faith, I agree, we should utilize that. I am not 100% sure what is being reported because you have the professional staff there 8 to 5, Monday through Friday, and most of these reports occur on Monday after a lot of stuff going on the weekend. I do know that Faith, the case manager, has been very communicative with us about some of the concerns. I have met with Faith. It's hard to try to really convince her of what's happening. If we could have a staffing to resolve all of this, we could invite her, incorporate her into it. I'm all for it. The problem is we've got, we're literally miles apart from one another, and we've got this child in the middle, and now we have a newborn in the middle of that. I don't want to remove this child from Faith. I think we're not there yet. I don't think we're even close to being there. But I think that everybody is reacting to the ongoing drama with this child, and no one really knows what to do. I would invite Ms. House to, participate in some of these staffings so she can hear directly from the staff what's going on, so we can come up with a plan. Having these staffings with the child present, I will tell you, there may be 1 or 2 of them, and they did not go well because Faith would get very defensive, like, you're attacking me. And that's not what happened. And I think that the truth is in the middle. I think that this child's very confused. I think she needs a lot of help. But unfortunately, the help that she's being provided is being rejected to some extent. And then in others, I just don't think this placement knows what to do anymore. So that's my understanding, was why Ms. Bradley is bringing it to the court. I have all the empathy in the world for Faith. She's a new mom. She's got a lot going on, and she is a severely traumatized child. But I do think that there should be some protections in place. And again, what I'm hearing everybody saying to me, because they wanted me to ask for this hearing, which I did not have the ability to do, was to alert you. And maybe if the court issues the request and the order, that maybe she'll listen. That's the sense I'm getting. And Ms. Shove can add to that, unless, there's some other thing that's going on here. I just have a feeling that this child has a lot more power in her mind, that she can say no because of the months she's been there, that they've kind of let her slide a little bit more than they probably should have while she's pregnant. And now she's refusing a lot of things and they don't know what to do. And that's really what's going on. I agree with Ms. House. We do need to sit down and have a meeting. I'm just not sure how that's going to look.
Judge, if I may respond, each time that I'm asked about my schedule in advance to schedule a meeting, I schedule it around my schedule. But when meetings are scheduled during a time where I'm in court, I cannot attend. That's just impossible. They've not been weekly. And they don't happen that frequently. In fact, I have them almost like once a month that I've seen that have been scheduled, at least I've been invited to. But what I will say is, when we think about this child, having a child in her care, there's also there's a father on the other side. Faith is opening up to me. There's a paternal grandmother who is very interested in this child, that has kind of, I will say, has been very awakening for Faith and has encouraged her to do what she needs to do in order to show that she is a provider for this child. She has reached out to me to counsel, because that's my job, to counsel her on private family law matters. That has caused her to be more engaging in counseling, to engage in Latch. And I think her session with Latch, she wasn't able to do it because therapy was scheduled at the same time. But there's been recent events that have occurred that has sparked her on the right track. While we have that spark, I think we need to take advantage of the situation and her engagement and just encourage her and work together. I mean, I'm surprised she's not here right now.
All right. Okay, I see that there's a hand raised from the conference table, and I'm getting back to my original concern that this amorphous request for me to review all the issues that are going on with Faith just leaves me in a situation where I don't really understand what you want this court to do. So let's get down to testimony and real requests. And Ms. Bradley, it looks like there are people who want to provide testimony and information. Let's get that started. Who do you want to call as a witness? And I don't want to spend all afternoon here because I feel like this does feel like a staffing to me. This really does. And so if you want a concrete thing that this court can address and deal with, let's get to that. And I want to see what I can do to help preserve this placement, support Faith, and protect this child as best we can. So Ms. Bradley, who would you like to call?
Mr. Castro.
Thank you. Ms. Bradley, you may proceed.
Hello, Mr. Castro. What is your exact title there at the Touchstone campus?
Yes, I am the Vice President of Residential Services for SJRC Texas.
And you heard the judge's concerns or goals, wanting to know what the staff would like the court to do in order to preserve placement, support Faith, and protect the child. Can you give us your response?
Yes, thank you so much for the opportunity. And Ms. Hellrung put it out there. For the safety of Faith, for the safety of the infant, and for progress in her therapeutic care, we would like to request that her cell phone no longer be allowed on campus for the remaining time she is here with us. And I could give context to these after I put these out there. The second thing is we do request that she have to participate in the parenting classes. We believe if she participated in those, she would be able to she would have better care for her infant and put her child at less risk. And so that would be the second primary request. And third, also for her safety and the safety of the baby, we request she not be allowed to have a job. For the concern of her elopement, which she has indicated she would do before, she's made efforts to do that before, and so we want to avoid that situation. And I'm happy to add context to anything that our two attorneys eloquently shared with the court.
Was there anything else after that? I only wrote 3 things.
Yeah, the fourth one was that she be mandated to participate in school and attend school on a daily basis. We do have a charter school on campus provided by UT School of Social Work, who are experts in the field of working with the population that we do. They are in also the other residential facilities throughout Texas. We currently have a low census right now, so she's in a classroom with no more than 5, 6, sometimes 7 residents at a time. So she's getting right now a lot of personal attention when it comes to schooling.
All right, so you kept mentioning context. If you would please go ahead and elaborate as to each request to the court as to why you feel it's needed. I think that's what you mean by context.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. So I will address the point. We have a weekly integrative therapeutic staff meeting every single week where we do discuss the clinical and the therapeutic progress for each of our youth. That include psychologists, psychiatrists, therapists, social workers, our school personnel, our nursing personnel. We also have UT Health Science Center on campus who provides RN support for our residents as well. So we have a very robust clinical therapeutic team that talks about the kids every week. And actually, we do know what to do. This is part of the reasons for the request of the court on these recommendations. We believe that what we're recommending will help us be able to help Faith help herself. Faith refuses to participate what feels like 80% of the time in those services we want to bring to her attention. For example, when she did come here, we did have a female therapist lined up with the assistance of others. After one visit with that individual, she refused. We tried to get another female therapist. She refused. We already had a male therapist who was serving the population on this campus. Eventually, she engaged with that male therapist. As time has gone on, she's refused more and more and more. However, we offered another female therapist, a different one, who also offers EMDR as one of her approaches. She refused. So we have been offering services. We also offer another service by a female quality mental health professional, by Village Life Center, who shows up here once or twice a week, who Faith at times does participate with. So she is engaged in clinical care with a qualified mental health professional. So she is getting that. And they work on things such as coping strategies, communication strategies, assertiveness, appropriate assertiveness, without using a lot of profanity at the top of her lungs towards others when she doesn't get her way. So she is getting some care in that area too. We also would love to have Ms. House participate more often in our therapeutic staffing, should she desire to. We believe that would be progress, because she would be able to hear directly from us what is going on, and not just from one side, which would be Faith's. We're very, very concerned about her infant, Lorenzo, and the
Objection.
that is the child is currently in, because how Faith struggles to care for that child in a safe manner.
All right, Ms. Bradley, can you ask another question?
That was the first request that
I understand, but I and you know, to the point, I mean, this is a court proceeding, and I'm happy to, you know, enforce the rules of evidence and civil procedure, but also these are complex issues with Faith. And so some of these answers, I'm just going to say this court is going to have some patience hearing a more narrative response. So I'm not going to, I'm just going to say that. Ms. Bradley, go on to your next question, please.
All right, thank you, Mr. Castro, for addressing the concern about the therapy. That is very helpful. Now, you also mentioned that you would like to see Faith ordered, if I'm understanding correctly, to participate in parenting classes to diminish the risk to her child. And can you give us, as you say, the context or the reason why you believe that this would be beneficial to her or is needed?
Yes, we believe through the parenting classes, she would be educated on some of the child developmental stages that the child will be going through naturally. She'll be able to recognize those signs and how to respond to the child appropriately. She'll be better educated on proper feeding, proper cleaning of the child when necessary, proper sleep behaviors for the child, holding the child, the importance of using safety restraints when traveling with the child in a car seat. And through the class, she would be educated by experts in all things related to caring for a baby.
All right. And you also specifically requested the court to make an order that she not be allowed to engage in a job. And, you know, usually that's a step forward for a lot of our youth in care. But why do you feel it's not appropriate or not in Faith's best interest for her to participate in some kind of employment?
Because we believe she would use that opportunity to elope from the facility and therefore possibly abandon her child, putting her child at risk and putting herself at further risk.
All right. So you would prefer that she was basically supervised at all times due to the high risk?
Correct. At this current stage of her progress, yes.
All right. And you have also asked that her cell phone not be allowed to have a cell phone for the duration of her stay there.
Correct.
Yes. Can you elaborate and give the reason why you feel this would be in Faith's best interest?
Yes, the cell phone is used by Faith to make phone calls for those that are not on her approved list. She also will not comply with the program protocols of when to turn in the phone, and therefore becomes a point of contention and battle with staff on a frequent basis. And primarily the phone becomes an obstacle for her therapeutic care.
In what way is it an obstacle?
Because she'll continue to use the phone to engage others or to disengage from staff.
Okay, what about when she needs to contact her attorney?
We provide the means for all our residents to meet anybody that they're, within the system allowed to communicate with.
Okay. Did you hear the testimony about that it wasn't testimony, but the comment made by Miss House that there appears to be a paternal grandmother who's very interested in the child. Do you happen to know if there is communication with this individual by Faith?
I am not aware of that.
Do you have any knowledge as to whether Faith believes that this individual is the father of her child?
I'm not aware of that, no.
Okay. All right. And then the fourth thing was you've asked that Faith be required by the court to participate in the on-campus classroom. And why would that be beneficial to Faith or in her best interest for the court to mandate? Can she not simply stay in her bed and claim to be sick, or how do you deal with that? And why is it in her best interest?
Sure. Obviously, any child that is not well health-wise, then it's understood that they're not going to go to school that day. And we do have nurses on campus that would be able to evaluate her if that was the case. Yet what we're finding is that participating in school will really help her develop the self-discipline within our structure, right? And our goal, like others on this call, I'm assuming, would be to help her catch up at her grade level as well. And so the way to do that would be to participate in the classroom.
Is the structure and the very low ratio of teacher to pupils, how does that benefit Faith?
She gets a lot more personal attention. The school assigns a principal also. The UT Charter School also assigns a principal who is very involved as well with every single student that participates. So she does have her own plan that to help her attain her goals, her education goals.
All right. So Mr. Castro, let's just hypothetically assume the court grants these requests. What are the teeth? What do you do if Faith refuses? Is there something in place there at your campus where privileges are taken away, or I don't know, what is the procedure if this is not followed by Faith, if the court should grant this request?
Sure. Absolutely. We are a campus that really focuses on helping to connect with the youth, helping the youth regulate. So we are very compassionate and patient while any of our residents kind of dysregulate, scream, yell, walk around the campus. Often when they're not feeling well, they say they want to run away. We will stay in close proximity to them, offering support offering concern, offering the supportive ear, should they want it, or if they want us to shut up and not do anything, we'll continue to take quiet too. Our goal isn't to remove privileges right away. However, if there is a persistency in a particular behavior that puts the resident or others at risk, then privileges would likely be removed, such as not being able to go off campus for a particular period of time, maybe 48 hours, unable to participate in a campus activity by chance if we have volunteers on site to do a particular activity. So we try and minimize that, yet we'll use them as strategically and therapeutically appropriate.
You made the comment that if the behavior of one of the residents is detrimental, I forget the exact words you used, but detrimental to the other residents there. That was the phrase I kind of keyed in on, although it's not exact. Is that what is happening with Faith?
It has happened in the past.
In what ways?
She has had physical altercations with a resident before. She has, and this is 8 weeks ago-ish. She has removed keys from a vehicle that's been off campus with other residents in it before and run away with those keys, again, leaving other youth stranded. She has picked up rocks on campus and broken house windows that had other residents in the house. So there have been occurrences where her behaviors have become risky.
And Mr. Castro, are there circumstances under which the placement could or may be broken? Is Faith in any danger of having that happen?
We have had concerns about her placement for the safety of her child here while she's been here. And if I may add, she has had progress. So please, I'd like the court to hear, we have seen times where Faith is able to engage with staff, and just like we're all engaged right here, right now. And we have had occasions where Faith has laughed and had fun with residents and staff. So there are those moments. Yet at this stage, we are really, really concerned that progress needs to continue to be made for the safety of her and the baby. And this is why we're making the recommendations we are. And should those, should some of the concerns I just brought up continue, we're worried for their well-being.
And will the program be closing sometime within the next few months, specifically September or October?
The parenting, we call it the Parenting and Teen Pregnancy Program. So that portion will be ending as of September 30th, yes.
And would it be at that point incumbent on finding another placement for Faith?
Yes,
and
the permanency specialists, as well as others on this call, I believe are aware that the program is closing. And so when we notified everybody, there was 7 months notice was provided.
So if the behavior were to continue unabated by Faith, and especially the behavior towards the child and staff, that information must be revealed to a prospective placement, correct?
Correct.
And
yes.
In your opinion, would that diminish her chances of being accepted?
Well, I wish I knew of every provider in Texas, but I don't. So that's hard to say.
All right. All right. I thank you very much. Is there anything that I have not addressed that you feel supports your request?
I believe your questions help get out everything we wanted to share. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Someone else may have questions for you, Mr. Castro.
All right, Ms. House, do you have any questions for Mr. Castro?
Yes, thank you, Judge. Mr. Castro, you and I have talked about the storing of Faith's medication. Do you recall that conversation, sir?
I do.
Okay. And Faith is very sensitive about her medical diagnosis. You would agree, correct?
I do.
Okay. And there was a transition as to how medications were distributed to the child from her case manager into being in a locked cabinet that's stored in a more public place. Correct?
It is stored with all the rest of the medications that all our residents take within the house. Yes.
And just for clarity, since that change has gone on, has she been able to receive her medication in this new placement?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so according to my electronic records, 2 therapeutic staffing invitations were issued to me from you on August 31st of 2022 and March 1st of 2023. Now, I want to ask you specifically about the March date. The March 1st, 2023 therapeutic staffing was canceled. Has it since been rescheduled since that time?
We have therapeutic staff meetings every week.
Okay, so and Mr. Castro, and since we're not receiving the weekly invitation for the therapeutic staffing, will you moving forward provide an invitation for your weekly staffing as it relates to Faith? So in the event that that we're able to participate, we can?
I'd love to, absolutely. We'd love to have your attendance.
Okay, but specifically as far as the one that went out to Faith's team on March 1st, the one that was canceled, do you know when that specific meeting will be rescheduled so that everyone here can note that date?
Let me get with the clinical team, the therapeutic team, to confirm a date. And I would anticipate that we can make it as early as this Thursday, which is our regular time, from 11 to 12:30. And so if your schedule permits, we'd love your participation this Thursday. If that doesn't work, you're always welcome to the following Thursday.
Okay. And Mr. Castro, as far as Faith's therapeutic goals, what specifically are the therapeutic goals that your facility has came up with that need to be addressed?
Yeah, I'm going to give them in a kind of a global context. So one, it would be for her to address with a clinician her trauma background. So that would be a goal, to be able to work with a clinician on starting to address some of those things, to recognize how those trauma experiences have influenced her behaviors and her thinking patterns today. So that would be one. Two.
Let me clarify, Mr. Castro, and I guess I'm not talking about global. Can you refer to something that is written and specific to Faith, right? And I'm saying in document form that could be sent even right after this proceeding, identified specific goals as it relates to Faith. And I'm not asking globally, specific therapeutic goals that need to be addressed when it comes to Faith.
Yeah, I don't have that at my fingertips. That would be in her documentation. So we will get that for you. Are you saying that's never been provided to you before?
And sir, I'm sorry, Mr. Castro, the format of this is the attorneys ask the questions and you provide answers, but I'd love to follow up with you. Next, Faith has been told that this placement may not continue. Has a transition meeting been held so that she understands as to what may come next for her?
So her belong permanency specialist was informed of this. If you are requesting, or is your question include permanency specialists in the room, attorneys in the room, therapists in the room, we can, at your guidance, our suggestions, we can make that happen.
Thank you. No further questions.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Castro, for that guidance and information. Let me say this in the interest of time. I mean, we can continue this and could probably spend all afternoon talking about ways that we can help Faith. But to me, in order to help Faith and in order to keep Lorenzo safe, she needs to remain in this placement. And none of the requests that have been made today of this court seem out of bounds or inappropriate. In fact, this court had a lengthy hearing many months ago regarding the cell phone. Representations were made by Faith at that hearing that she would act responsibly with that cell phone when this court permitted it, and that she would follow the guidelines of the placement, that she would attend school, that she would essentially use it responsibly. And if it is becoming an impediment to her progress therapeutically at the placement, then I don't believe that she needs that privilege. And it's not that it can't be reconsidered later. I know that the request is that she not have it for the duration of her time at the placement. But certainly when you talk about privileges, that is a major privilege for her that I think that she's abused and that she does not need it at this time, because it's an obstacle to her engaging in the services that she needs to engage in. I think it's perfectly appropriate to ask that she complete a parenting class. And in light of what I've heard regarding some of the concerns about her behavior towards Lorenzo and the concerns that are there, that seems like the most appropriate thing to have her do. And I don't think it should be refused by Faith. I think it has to be something that she engages in. And in addition, it's not out of bounds to say she doesn't need to be working. She needs to be doing the things at the placement that she's refusing to do, like go to counseling, like go to parenting, and go to school. She has a full-time job with school that she should be focusing her attention and energy on. And so I don't think it's inappropriate to ask that she be ordered to attend school on a daily basis. So this court is going to grant all 4 of those requests. I believe them to be in Faith's best interest and by extension, Lorenzo's. I also would, I appreciate the history with the efforts that have been made to locate a therapist that meets Faith's approval. And that was documented quite well, Mr. Castro, about the efforts that have been made to find a therapist that meets Faith's blessing and approval. I would like that effort to continue to find a therapist that is female. And if you provide her a female therapist that is qualified and capable of providing therapy to her, I'm ordering her to go to that therapy. I am at this time also asking that the weekly staffings that are held, the therapeutic staffings, that those that notices go to Ms. House and Ms. Hellrung to ensure their participation. And I hope that that can address any issues going forward as well. But the court feels these requests are more than appropriate and in Faith's best interest. And I hope that we can preserve the placement. And if the placement is ending come September, I am ordering the department to conduct the type of transition planning process that Ms. House referenced that incorporates Faith as well, because that is going to be the necessary next step if we're successful in engaging her in all these things. I also, I don't think it's out of line for me to point out that a discussion, Ms. House, Ms. Hellrung, needs to be made with her, that these are the types of reasonable efforts the department needs to make in order to prevent or eliminate the need to potentially remove Lorenzo from her care if he is in fact in immediate danger. And I think it needs to be very clear to her that this is how she demonstrates that she can continue to keep Lorenzo in her care safely. And so this is not just about what this court is ordering for her. This has major and profound implications as to whether Lorenzo will remain in her care and that she has the ability to continue to meet his needs on a daily basis. So to me, it seems pretty simple. And it just would have been helpful up front, Ms. Bradley, if the motion could have been just a motion to order these 4 things. And then we wouldn't have had to spend 20 minutes of our time at the beginning trying to figure out what we were in fact trying to address today. Because these are very reasonable requests, and we could have started hearing Mr. Castro's testimony immediately regarding those requests. So let me look at when we are scheduled to be in court next on Faith's case. Yes, so we're scheduled to be back on May the 5th at 10, so that's great. We'll be able to touch base very quickly to see how things are going following today's hearings and this request. All right. So is there anything else we need to address while we are all together today? If not, I thank you all for your work with Faith and your continued efforts to try to keep her safe and Lorenzo. So thank you all. If there's nothing further, all parties are excused.
Judge, if I may,
yes.
And I may reach out to you because in dealing with kids that I came from CWAP and went into placement, and also when it comes to the issue of cell phones, a kid without a kid will be in a state of crisis. I think we already know what's coming. I just want to make sure if I reach out to the court that where Faith, can speak to you, because she's not here. I don't know why she's here to be prepped, and I don't know who's going to prep her for the orders that will come. And what I don't want to see is that this child is in a state of crisis while an investigation is going on, and we knew it was coming. And so I'm really scared right now. And so if there is a way that she could speak to the courts and she's not here, and maybe not today, maybe tomorrow morning or sometime tomorrow. And if I can talk to her first before this news is delivered by anyone else, to kind of soften the blow, I would greatly appreciate that. Okay.
I think your assistance is appreciated. I am available. I have court in the morning. I'm available tomorrow afternoon if she needs to meet with the court then.
Your Honor, as for guardian, do you want me to be there as well?
If you're available,
Cass, I'll get with you after the hearing.
All right.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you all.